So quiz 2, this was the same as quiz 1, but in quiz 1, I just gave you all the data listed. Thank you. Quiz 2, I'm giving you now the information. Heck, we'll call them word problems, I guess, because they're English, but really, I'm going to be looking for physics words and numbers and units and figuring out all that stuff. So, who's my favorite student? Sadly, not the person coming into the door right now. Instead, it's good old Anne. Here we go. Solve as indicated, 2 marks each. I will give you part marks for partial solutions. If you have not done this quiz, because you were away or you just didn't do it, dumb would be copying it out right now. Just watch, and then I would try this quiz a few days from now, or even over the Christmas break as a little refresher or something like that. Object starts at rest. I will almost always underline the word at rest. That tells me something. Part A wants me to find the acceleration. They've told me the displacement is 18 meters. They've told me the time is 4 seconds. And they told me we start at rest. VI is 0. So I'm looking for an equation that has D, A, T, and VI in it. That's a long blink. You gonna make it? Okay. You might want to take your jacket off and be a little colder, because 3 a.m., that's a long time to be up till. Oh, sorry, that slipped out. Can I use this equation here? D equals a half AT squared. Mr. Dewick, isn't the correct equation D equals VIT plus a half AT squared? Yeah, that's what I wrote. Sorry, Mr. Dewick, I beg to differ. You didn't write VIT plus a half AT squared. You just wrote a half AT squared. Yeah, what's VI? 0. And I said to you the other day, now we're going to start to keep our eyes open for zeros because they make the equations nicer too. I'm trying to get the A by itself. If I want to get the A by itself, what's going to drop down like a domino? The D. And then I think I would divide the T squared over, and then I would times the 2 to the top. I would also divide the 1, but will dividing by 1 make any difference to my answer at all? So, because I see that 1/2 not as a 1/2, I see it as a 1 on top timesing and a 2 on the bottom, dividing, because that's really what it is. That equals A. Do I need to square root here? Kids get a little square root happy. I only need to square root if what I'm finding has a squared on it. I know there's a T squared, but does the A have a squared on it? No need to square root. It's going to be 2 times 18. You know what? I'm going to be able to do this in my head. Oh, absolutely. Because 2 times 18 is 36. This is 36 over 16. Divide by 4, divide by 4. This is 9 over 4. It's going to be 2.25? Yes? No? Yeah? 2.25 units. Now I always check. What was I trying to find? Acceleration. So meters per second squared. If you got that 2 out of 2, by the way, I could go to 3 sig figs in this question. Great. If you got that wrong, I would give you 1 mark for that equation, or even if you included the VIT, I'm fine with that. I would give you a half mark for getting the A by itself, and then a half mark for the answer. This is going to change soon. Starting after the holidays on the next quiz, Jordan, instead of giving you 1 mark for the original equation and a half mark for the rewritten equation, I'll give you a half mark for the original equation and 1 whole mark for the rewritten equation, because Aaron, I really want to push you into this being able to rewrite equations without having to memorize a bunch of stuff. Okay? B, final speed, that's VF. I'm not going to relist all my data because it's sitting right there, Conlon. I'm looking for an equation that has a VF, a D, a T, a V. I guess I can use my acceleration. Technically, I should use this equation. The reason is that's using information that they gave me. But honestly, this is a pain to get the VF by itself. I'm going to be lazy. I'm going to use VF equals VI plus AT. And as long as I got A right, I'll get this right. And I'm pretty sure I got the A right. So I'm going to go 0 plus A 2.25 T4. In fact, I think I can do that in my head. The answer is going to be 9.00. If you just wrote 9, that's fine. Meters per second. Is 9 right? Or is 9 9? You get that? See how I did that? 9 9? No? Some of you, I don't get that. Okay, fine. Is 9 correct? Yes. Now, I don't care which equation. You actually had 3 different equations you could have used to find V final. How many of you used this one? The one that I used. How many of you used the D equals 0.5 bracket VI plus VF times T? Got the same answer, I trust? A little more work. How many of you used VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD? Okay, I think those are the only 3. I don't think you could use D equals VIT plus a half AT squared because there's no VF in there. Different approaches, but you would have got the same answer no matter what. Same as before, 1 mark. This time you didn't have to rewrite the equations. I'll give you a half mark for the numbers and a half mark for the answer. Number 2. A dog, we want to find the acceleration. Looks like VI is 1.5, VF is 8.6, T equals 4.5. I'm going to use VF equals VI plus AT, but I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to rewrite it as A equals VF minus VI over T. It's going to be 8.6 minus 1.5 all over 4.5. It's going to be a fraction. Is there more than one thing on the top? Yeah, brackets. 8.6 minus 1.5 divided by 4.5. You get 1.777, I guess 1.57 repeating, 1.58, yeah, 1.6 if I go to 3 sig figs. So I'm going to write 1.58, and then I'll write 1.6, and it's meters per second squared. Some built-in error checks. McKenna, what was V initial? What was V final? Was the dog speeding up or slowing down? Speeding up. On my calculator, was I expecting a positive acceleration or a negative acceleration? In other words, if I know that ahead of time and I get a negative, I know I've typed something wrong. So there's some built-in error checks. Doesn't tell me what the answer is, but at least tells me ballpark. Positive. Got rid of half the wrong answers on the planet, all the negative ones. Is that okay? Yeah. Again, if you said 1.58, I would give you full marks. Same marking as before. 1 mark, half mark for the answer. If you said 1.57, why would I take a half mark off? Learn to round off properly, right? If you said 1.5, take a half mark off. Learn to round off properly. 1.58 is good. Find the distance traveled. D equals question mark. You know what? I think I'm going to try finding distance using those 3 things because they gave them to me. You could also use D equals VIT plus a half AT squared, and you would use your answer from part A to find it. You could find it with VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD. D equals VF squared minus VI squared all over 2A. That's a lot of work, but that would get you there. But I'm going to go with the overlooked middle child equation that we don't use very often. Why? The D is by itself already. Yay. And Jordan, I'm using information that they gave me. If I can avoid using the acceleration and it's less work, I'll do it that way. In the previous question, because it was so much more work to avoid using the acceleration, I caved and I just used my answer because I was lazy. Really, Mr. Duick? Shouldn't you be educationally sound? No, lazy works. 0.5 bracket 1.5 plus 8.6 times 4.5. On my calculator, I can go 0.5 bracket 1.5 plus 8.6 close bracket, and I can just tuck the 4.5 right there, and it knows to multiply. You'll have to figure out how your calculator works. You get 22.725. And I guess to 2 sig figs, I would go 23, but again, I'm not going to be that fussy. Same as before, 1 mark, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer. But if you got the right answer, 2 out of 2. What's 3A want me to find? Ah! What's 3A want me to find? Sorry, Internet. Someone said it. What was that, Zach? Okay, D equals question mark. Zach, what's that 24? Did they tell me V final? Yeah. Stopping. Now, I was mean. I snuck it into the actual question part. I didn't give it in the preamble, in the original stuff. What's V final? 0. What's the acceleration? Why is 3.8 wrong? Because it is. So? Okay. Now, you'll notice, Zach, on the quiz, I bold-faced and underlined slows down. I will stop doing that eventually. I'm going to reach the point with you folks where I expect you notice those physics-y words. By the way, so this person is hitting the brakes. While they're hitting the brakes, while they're slowing down, are they traveling forwards or backwards? It's meant to be really obvious, Zach. Forwards. Am I expecting a positive displacement or a negative displacement on my calculator? Are they traveling forwards or backwards? Am I expecting a positive displacement or a negative displacement on my calculator? Are you positive? Yes. Okay. If I missed this, the negative, I might end up with a negative displacement, and hopefully that would get your attention if you're imagining this situation. The car's going forwards and hitting the brakes. It's going forwards fairly fast and coming to a stop, but I think it was traveling forwards the whole time. There's no way it suddenly ended up behind from where it started from. I've done something wrong. Okay, so there are some built-in error checks. You got to imagine things a little bit. I'm looking for an equation that has a D, a VI, a VF, and an A in it. Well, the original equation is VF squared equals VI squared plus 2A D. Zach, redeem yourself. Get the D by itself. Yeah. What's going to drop down like a domino? No. What's going to drop down like a domino first? No. I'm trying to get the D by itself. Go to the other side of the equation. What's going to drop down like a domino? I always write that down as my reference. By the way, you'll notice now I'm starting to write D equals first because I know I want that by itself. But then, okay, I drop the VF squared like a domino. Now do your adding and subtracting. Then, Merry Christmas. 0 squared minus 24 squared, all divided by 2 times negative 3.8. See, this is nice because I know my answer should be positive. The top is negative because it's 0 minus something. The bottom is negative. What's a negative divided by a negative? If I had missed that negative in front of the acceleration, I'd be getting a negative answer in front of me, and hopefully that would make me nervous because I'd be saying, how could I go forwards and end up behind me? Right? Okay. 0 squared minus 24 squared, close bracket, divided by bracket 2 times negative 3.8, close bracket. Is that right? 75.8? And I would go to 3 sig figs. Is it 75.8? No? Yes? 75.8 meters. I would go to 3 sig figs. 1 mark for that, half mark for that, half mark for the correct answer. Aaron, what's B asking me to find? T equals question mark. You know what? I'm not going to use I think I can find time using those 3 things, and it's actually a nice equation. Aaron, what's the equation that has a time, a VI, a VF, and an A in it? You go, girl. I'm trying to get the T by itself. What's on the other side going to drop down like a domino? Then? Yep. Don't you feel like a little proud nerd? A little nerdy adrenaline rush? Look what I can do. I don't have to memorize this. I can just figure it out. It's going to be 0 take away 24 divided by negative 3.8. This is also another one, Zach. Time is always positive. Time is not going to be negative. Well, I heard that Albert Einstein said that. No. Einstein showed that time travel into the future is possible, and we will look at that. But time travel into the past is not possible. So no negative times, Jade, no. So if you had forgotten to put the negative right there, you would be getting a negative time. Hopefully that would get your attention you would say, I've probably made a calculator mistake, or I've missed a sign in my data somewhere. So there are built-in error checks. 0 minus 24 divided by negative 3.8. Aaron, I got 6.31 or 6.32? I would, yeah. Seconds. If you got that, great. Are there other ways to find V final? Or sorry, to find T? I guess you could use D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. That'd be kind of ugly. You could also use D equals 0.5 bracket. You know what? I would do it this way. I would. Same as before, Kennedy, 1 mark, half mark, turn the page. Number 4, find the acceleration. Okay. That 12, I know it's a velocity, meters per second. Final or initial? Initial. I know that 2 ways. First of all, I think we start out that way. Also, I glanced at part B. Part B is asking me to find V final, which means the 12 isn't V final, because if I gave you V final in the question and said find V final, that'd be a dumb question, right? So V initial is 12. T is 6. D is 96. I guess I'm going to use this one. D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. This one is about as tough as it gets. I'm going to be much more careful here. Kennedy, why am I trying to get by itself? A. See it? That's going to drop down like a domino. D. The 0.5 and the T squared are timesing the A. I'll divide by them later. What's the VIT doing? It's plussing, so I think I'm going to go minus VIT, and then I'll divide that whole thing by 0.5 T squared. That's what A equals. That's about as ugly an equation as you'll see actually all year. Okay, that's a bit of a fib. Einstein's equations for special relativity will be a wee bit uglier, but for Pete's sakes, it's Einstein. What'd you expect? D, 96 minus VI, 12 times 6 divided by 0.5, 6 squared. I can do this in my head because it's 96 minus 72 is 26 minus 2. It's 24. It's 48 divided by 36. I can divide both of those by 12. It's going to be 4 over 3. Is it 1.33333333? Yeah? I'll go to 2 sig figs, but I would take 3 sig figs or 4. 1.3 units, meters per second squared. That's a tough question. 1 mark, half mark, half mark. Leah, can you give her an elbow? She's blinking for an awfully long time. It's okay. Leah, what's B wanting me to find? I know you were away, but we'll walk through this one. Which one? Yeah, process of elimination. I know V initial, 12. So it's not going to be 12. V final. Leah, V final after how many seconds? How many seconds in part A? Since it's the same time, I'm not going to relist everything. I'm just going to go with what I have here. If the time had changed, I would re-defic. I would relist my data. VF equals question mark. Leah, I could use this to find VF. I could use D equals 0.5 VI plus VF times T. D over 0.5 T minus VI equals VF. Well, okay, I'll do it that way, because some of you did it that way. You could also use VF equals VI plus AT, Sally, and use your acceleration from part A. I'm going to go with D equals 0.5 bracket VI plus VF times T, which means that D divided by 0.5 T minus VI equals VF. It's going to be 96 divided by 0.5 times 6 minus 12. I think I can do this one in my head. 96 divided by 3. It's 32, take away 12. Is the answer 20 even? 20 even? Hang on. Sorry? Quick look at money. Now, did any of you use VF equals VI plus AT and just get VF? No one did. Did anybody use VF squared equals VI squared plus T? Got the right answer? That's because you used a rounded off value. I would take that, but I would get in the habit of, if you had that 1.33 sitting on your calculator, which you probably still did, use your answer button. Okay? Here's what I do want to say. Let me go back to number 1 for a second. Let's suppose you got 1A wrong. Let's suppose you got the wrong acceleration. But you went VF equals VI plus AT, you dropped this number there, you times it by 4, and you got the right answer based on your numbers. I would give you 2 out of 2, Lexi. I'll give you full marks for the second part of a question. If you start out with the wrong data, but you do everything correctly, I'll give you full marks. Or, let's suppose that you got to this number 1 and you couldn't remember how to find the acceleration, but you knew that if you knew A, you could find B on a test. Let's suppose that you know you need part A to find part B, but you can't remember how to find part A. Write me a note. Dear Mr. Dewick, I can't figure out the acceleration. I'm going to assume the acceleration is 8 meters per second squared. Make up a nice number. Show me that you can do part B. I'll give you full marks for part B. So if there's ever a multi-part question and you can't find the first part, make up a good value. Write me a note. By a good value, don't say A is 0. Because that's wishy-washy. And I wouldn't even say A is 1, because the 1 times table, behaves differently from other times tables. Make, 5 or 9 or 10 or something like that. And I'll give you full marks for part B. Don't leave stuff blank if you can't find part A. Okay? Same as before, 1 mark, half mark, half mark. 2 more, we're done. The jet question. We want to find D. It says assume it starts at rest, so VI was 0. I guess we need a final velocity of 84. And we need an acceleration of 3.75. I think I can use VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD. It's going to be VF squared minus VI squared all over 2A. It's going to be 84 squared minus 0 squared, I probably didn't need to type that in, divided by 2 times 3.75. Do you get 940.8? 941? I guess to 2 sig figs, 940 meters. 1 mark, half mark, half mark. Number 6, the RCMP question. I think they want me to find, not V final, Mr. Dewick, V initial. By the way, in any car accident, what's V final always going to be? Okay? And it looks like we have a distance of 42.5. Looks like I have a time of 1.6. I think I'm going to, Daniel, use this one. I want to get the VI by itself. Well, the D is going to drop down. The 0.5 and the T will divide. And then I think I'll minus the VF. That equals VI. VI is going to be 42.5 divided by 0.5 times 1.6 minus 0. I probably don't need to type the minus 0. 53.125? I'll go 53.1 meters per second. 1 mark, half mark, half mark. How fast is that in kilometers per hour? Oh, 191. Yeah, this person's speeding. I didn't ask that, but yeah, this person is speeding. Can you give yourself a lovely score out of 20? However, before you pass the quizzes in, if you made some mistakes, some silly mistakes, and you want to do corrections right away, if you want to, you can hang on to the quiz, do your corrections on the quiz later on in class, cross out your current score, replace it with the new score, and you can hand that one in. Just make sure you do hand that one in. If you're okay with your score or you're not going to do the corrections, put your name on it, and you can hand the quiz in right now as is. So pass the quiz in if you're okay with it. Otherwise, hang on to it. A couple of days ago, we watched videos of Colonel Stapp, who was part of the testing for ejection seats, and we worked out that he had experienced 45 Gs. And I did tell you at the time, you might not remember, that that was not the highest G-forces survival on record. This is. In 1977 in Northamptonshire, England, David Purley's race car crashed and his speed dropped from 174 kilometers per hour. 174 what? I'm probably going to have to do a unit conversion. I've made a little mental note. Ding, 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 ding. Yes. In 0.66 meters. By the way, 174 kilometers per hour is pretty fast, right? Freeway speed is 100 kilometers per hour. So going very, very fast. And he came to a full stop. 0.66 meters, that's 2 rulers. One ruler is 30 centimeters. This is 66 centimeters. He came to a stop in about that big a distance. He had 29 fractures, 3 dislocations. His heart stopped 6 times. He did have permanent bone and body damage for the rest of his life, but he did survive. How many Gs did he experience? And this is the largest survived Gs on record. What does this question want me to find? How many what? I can't. Instead, I have to find something else first. So even though this question says find the Gs, what do I have to find first? I'm going to find the acceleration in meters per second squared. And then how do I go from meters per second squared to Gs? Divide by 9.8. Follow my reasoning? So what are we really trying to find? Acceleration. Let's all of us, when in doubt, DFIC. A equals question mark. What's that 174? What's that 174? Velocity, which one? Initial, yeah? Okay, so I'm going to write VI equals 174. I'm going to make a note that it's in kilometers per hour, and I'm going to convert it right now. 174 kilometers per hour. Do I times by 3.6 or divide by 3.6? I can't remember. Sorry? Divide? You might want your green sheet out, by the way. I don't know. Okay, 48.3 repeating meters per second. Oh, not squared, Mr. Duke. Meters per second. Okay. What's that 0.66? Distance or displacement? Technically a displacement, but I always say distance because I'm sloppy that way. This is not enough. I only have 2 things. There must be something else that I know. Oh! What do I know about any car accident on Earth? What's 0? Okay. So, I want to find acceleration. I have VI, I have D, I have VF. Which equation? Kyle, what? Kyle, my friend, I'm not writing that down. I want you to look at the equation. See it? Do you have it in front of you somewhere? Stare at it. Keep looking at it. In your head, can you get the A by itself? What's going to drop down like a domino? It'll literally adrenaline rush. I give you permission, if you want to, from now on, you no longer need to write down the original equation. You can just look at it on the green sheet, rewrite it in your head, and only write down the new and improved modified equation. That's a good time saver. As far as I'm concerned, apparently you can pull that one off. You don't have to do it that way, but if you feel comfortable enough with this formula manipulation, Jordan, that you can rewrite the stuff in your head, knock yourself out. Go ahead. It's going to be 0 squared minus 48.3 squared divided by 2 times 0.66. By the way, when he hit the wall, did he speed up or slow down? Slow down. I'm going to ask you the same question. I'm just going to phrase it differently. Am I expecting a positive acceleration or a negative acceleration on my calculator? So if I get a negative, I'm going to smile, not freak. Yes? Is this a fraction? More than one thing on the top? Sally, this is what I was mentioning to you earlier. I'm not going to use the 48.3. I'm going to use my answer button squared because it's 48.333333333333333. By the way, I could have put a 0 squared on the 0, but will a squared on a 0 make any difference at all? So I'm even that lazy. I didn't bother putting the squared on the 0. If there was a number non-zero there, I'd put the squared there, close bracket, divided by. You might want to try this because the numbers are staggering. In meters per second squared, David Purley experienced negative 1,700, oh heck, let's round up, negative 1,770. How many G's is that? How do I convert meters per second squared to G's? You can make a little note if you want to here. Divide by 9.8. Divide by 9.8. You know what? He's earned it. We'll round up again. Negative 181 G's. Which is the mathematical equivalent of surviving having 181 of himself dogpiled vertically in a big stack on him. He survived. It is possible that someone has survived more than that in a car crash. It's just we didn't happen to capture it on camera, and so we don't have the data and we can't analyze it. So that's why I said this is the largest survived on record. I suspect someone has survived more in a massive car accident somewhere, but it wasn't captured on film, so who knows? Okay. Freefall. When an object is falling through the air, we say it is in freefall. I'm not wild about the expression because you're not just in free fall on the way down, you are in free fall on the way up. All free fall means is the only thing that's acting on you is gravity. And on the way up, the only thing that's acting on you is gravity. The gravity is accelerating you downwards. So on the way up, your velocity is upwards, your acceleration is downwards, so on the way up you slow down. On the way down, your velocity is downwards, your acceleration is downwards, you're going to speed up because your acceleration and velocity are in the same direction. In free fall, what is the acceleration near the Earth as a number? You know this. Got to be fussy. Down. So we often use a lowercase g for the acceleration due to the Earth. I typically still use a for acceleration. Near the Earth, it's negative 9.8. Put your phone away, Mina. Meters per second squared. Face down. You're texting. I can see that. Face down. You're not that important. Write this down. This number is not universal. On the moon, gravity's less. On the moon, g is about negative 1.6. That's why if you watch moon footage, they look like they're moving strangely. On Mars, g is about 3-ish, negative 3-ish. Depending on what planet you're on, gravity will change. We'll talk about why that is in Physics 12. And also as you get further from the Earth, as you go into outer space, gravity gets weaker and weaker and weaker. We'll talk about why that is in Physics 12. Really what we want to talk about today, Lexi, is what can I solve, what can I find given some data? So let's drop a cannonball from a cliff. Why a cannonball? We're going to ignore air resistance. Hits the ground 10.6 seconds later. Oh, by the way, all of us right now underline the word dropped. Anytime I use that word, what's VI? So I wrote note, anytime I use the word dropped, we can assume that VI, it started out at 0. When won't we assume that? If we throw it down or throw it up. Well, then VI wasn't 0. We added an initial velocity to it. Is that okay? What does A want me to find? How high is the cliff? What variable would how high be from my 5 physics variables, VI, VF, D, T, and A? Okay, let's write down. D equals question mark. What's that 10.6? Oh, and we said we know that VI is 0. Soon as we're in free fall, we also know something else automatically every time. What's A? Negative 9.8. Looking for an equation that has D, T, VI, and A in it. There is one. Put it away completely in your purse, please. In your purse. Thank you. Sorry, what was that? D equals, and of course, you just said a half AT squared. You didn't dare waste your breath, waste your air reading the VIT, because what's VI? So you didn't waste my time with that, did you? Of course not. By the way, if you do, I'm not going to take marks off or anything. I mean, what I'm saying is, Daniel, start keeping your eyes open, look at your data, and spot shortcuts when they're there. So it's going to be 0.5 times negative 9.8 times 10.6 squared. Try this on your calculator. You get something kind of weird. A little bit weird. Try this. What's a little bit weird with your answer once you try it on your calculator, like 5 of you are doing? Nope, 6 of you. 7 of you. Huh? You get negative? You get negative 550, I guess, negative 551 if I go to 3 sig figs. Why negative? What's the negative telling me? I saw Erin, she said it's going down. I'm going to be even fussier. Did we end up above or below from where we started? It's saying, look, you ended up below from where you started. Now, when you look at a skyscraper or a cliff and you talk about how high it is, do you say that cliff is negative 551 meters high? Technically, height is a scalar, so I'm going to write h equals 551 meters. I'm going to make it positive, but I wouldn't take marks off if you left it negative. You're going to get a displacement with this equation. The D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. It's a displacement equation. It's going to give you a directional component in there. So although at first that negative made me nervous, when I thought about it, I said, no. I did end up below from where we started. I at a cliff. How many of you ever stood on a cliff and dropped rocks? Okay. This is, Zach, purely for nerd trivia. You ready? What number is negative 9.8 really close to, a nice round number? What's half of 10? If you time how long it takes the rock to fall, square that answer and times by 5, that's roughly how high the cliff is. I don't know if that adds to the experience or not. I think it does. Or you may have wondered, looking at the top, from standing on top of a cliff, how far down is that? Now, do the experiment safely and carefully, which means you better be out in the wilderness where there's no one, so that you know if you toss a rock over, it's not going to hit anybody. This is not one you want to be doing off of someone's sun deck in a crowded area. Okay? B. What's B want me to find? VF. Well, I still know that time was 10.6, that VI was 0, and that A was negative 9.8, so I'm not going to rewrite that. What equation would I use to find VF? Ah! okay, back again. Sorry, Internet, I apologize once again. What equation would I use to find VF? Which one? I could use VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD, but then I'm using this distance to find this velocity, which means if I get this distance wrong, I'll get this wrong. Don't I have an equation that has time VI and A in it? Can't I use VF equals VI plus AT? Pause for a second here. Folks, can't I use this? Don't I know VI, A, and T? And aren't those, Jaden, data that they gave me in the question, which would be much cleverer to use? What was VI, Jaden? Okay, because we're dropping. And it's plus negative 9.8 times 10.6. What's the negative in the velocity telling me? Aaron, now your answer that you mouthed last time is absolutely correct. We are going down, not up. So I'm expecting a negative answer. Okay, I'll call it negative 104 meters per second. How many of you ever stood on a cliff? Okay, so for those of you that have thrown rocks off of a cliff, if you've ever wondered how fast the rock hits the ground at, as long as you're dropping it, what nice round number is that negative 9.8 really close to? 10. If you time how long it takes on your phone or on your watch for the rock to hit the ground, times the time by 10, that's about how fast you hit the ground at. Hashtag little nerd trivia. C. C. Grisha, what's C want me to find? Oh, good. I was ready. I was taking a breath. I thought you were going to say velocity, and I was going to cut you off and say which one, but you anticipated me. You said, Duick wants me to find VF. Ah, but this time the time has changed. It's still falling. It takes 10.6 seconds for it to hit the ground. It's on its way down. It's still in free fall, and I still know VI because I dropped it. Yeah? Which equation could I use to find VF if I know VI and if I know A and if I know T? What would be a good equation to use? Oh, you are so clever. Oh, that was so clever of you. Thank you. By the way, as it's falling, what direction is it traveling? Am I expecting a negative or a positive velocity here? If I get a negative on my calculator, I'll smile, not freak. Yes? 0 plus negative 9.8 times 3.6. By the way, am I expecting an answer bigger than 104 or smaller than 104? Because I think it's going fastest right when it hits the ground. So I'm expecting a magnitude that's smaller. Hey, I did get that. You get negative 35.3? Yeah? Meters per second. You could also say 35.3 meters per second downwards. I would just not accept if you said negative 35.3 meters per second downwards, because what's negative and downwards mean? What would negative downwards imply? Up. So use one or the other. It's less work to put the negative than it is to write the word downwards. Next page. What's D asking me to find? You didn't hear my emphasis. You're right, but I said, what's D asking me to find? I was hoping you're going to say, duh, D. D is want me to find D. Okay, anyway. Oh, I work so hard. And anyway, okay. Mr. Duick, why don't you do the software install? Because I tried yesterday and nothing happens. It just sat for an hour, so that message is going to pop up for a while. I've turned the page, so I'm going to read DFIC. You guys might not need to. I recall that VI was 0, A was negative 9.8, time was 3.6. Mackenzie, I'm looking for an equation that has D, VI, A, and T in it. There is one. Oh, and she didn't waste breath like Jaden was going to. She said, Mr. Dewick, since VI is 0, I can go straight to that there. I don't need to write the VIT. Oh, you made my little math nerd heart go pitter-pat. Negative 9.8, 3.6 squared. By the way, after 3.6 seconds, am I above or below from where I started? So imagine we dropped it. After 3.6 seconds, are we above or below from where we started? Am I expecting a negative or a positive answer here? I'll smile when I get a negative, right? I won't freak, I'll smile. It's going to be 0.5 times negative 9.8 times 3.6 squared. So we can make lots of good predictions here by just imagining what's going on. Negative 63.5, yes? Meters. It is 63.5 meters below us. But it's easier just to write negative 63.5 meters. So far, so good. Let's go a little bit more. We'll see if we can finish this question. I think we can. What's VI this time in example 3? What's the initial velocity? 29. Up or down? Up, so positive. What if I threw it down? I would make the velocity negative. So if you stood on the cliff and threw it downwards, you could do that. Anyways, we're starting on the ground here. What is part Asia? What does part A want me to find? Yeah, time. I know A is negative 9.8. Even on the way up, it is slowing down at negative 9.8 meters per second squared. What did you say VI was, Asia? That's not enough. That's only 2 things. I need 3 things. There is something else that I know. There's a candy if anyone can spot it. So we're throwing something straight up in the air. We want to know how long it takes for it to reach its maximum height. There is something else that I know. Aaron. What? At the top, for a split second, how fast is it traveling for a split second? Ooh, I like that. Candy for you, my joy. I'm looking for an equation that has T, A, VI, and VF in it. There is one. Asia, which one? Stop. Can you get the T by itself? Can you read it to me as T equals something? Nice. Beautiful. Lovely. Nerd. No, that's a compliment from me. That's a compliment. It's going to be 0 takeaway 29 divided by negative 9.8. Asia, what are we finding? Time, positive or negative? Positive. No Einstein stuff here, okay? So if I get a negative, I would freak out. I think you will get a positive when you type this in. Brackets and all that stuff, right? You get 2.96 seconds. Technically, I should write 3.0 to 2 sig figs, but I'm going to keep the extra sig fig because I know, because I wrote this up, that I'm going to use it. Bear with me while I get Aaron her candy. Here's the bottom of this barrel. I got to go shopping over the Christmas break, but still a few left. Just checking the time, Jordan? Yeah. You know there's a clock up there, just saying. What's B want me to find? Maximum height, Jaden, are we still at the very, very tippy top? Say yes. Yeah. In other words, part A and part B are both at the same spot. I'm not going to relist my data. It's the same data. You can write A equals negative 9.8, VI equals 29, VF equals 0. Can you find for me an equation that has D? And if you can, try and use those. Try and avoid using time. There is one. Yeah, Josh. Stop. Can you get the d by itself, please? I'll give you a hint. The vf squared drops down like a domino.
Vf squared minus vx squared minus vi squared over 4.
Yes. So it's going to be 0 squared minus 29 squared all over 2 times negative 9.8. 0 squared minus 29 squared all over 2 times negative 9.8. And I get a, oh, by the way, this is going to seem really obvious, Josh, but the maximum height, is it above us or below us? Am I expecting a positive displacement or a negative displacement? Are you positive? I should get a positive. I do get a positive. Do you get 42.9? Yeah? It's a pretty good throw, by the way. Anyone else? 42.9? I need some confirmation here. Yes? Meters. All right. Let's suppose I gave this as a test question, which I will, and you finished the test early. Another way to find distance would be using that equation and your answer from part A. Before you hand the test in, you could really quickly just try crunching this on your calculator. What's VI? 29 times T, 2.96 plus 0.5 times negative 9.8 times 2.96 squared. Do I also get 42.9? Which tells me, Josh, not only is my answer right, my answer from part A must be right, because how could I have fluked into getting the same answer 2 different ways? This is one of those tests I would say to you, don't hand it in early. On a lot of the questions, you'll be able to solve for something using a totally different method, see if you get the same answer. Then you know you're right. You get built-in error checks. Last one and we're done. What's the impact velocity of the ball just before it hits the ground? No calculator required. How fast will it be traveling when it hits the ground? 0? No, that's after it hits the ground. That's not V final. That's after it hits the ground. Okay, everybody see it? Someone got it last class. What? That's its speed. What's its velocity? What direction is it traveling when it hits the ground at? What? Huh? If we ignore air resistance, which we are doing, Leah, who's not foolishly on her phone or anything, hiding it behind the hammer. I'll hammer you, kiddo. If we launch something up and it comes back down to the same height, it'll come back down at exactly the same velocity, same speed, different sign as it came up. You want a dumb way to remember that? You can write this down. What's the final word? If you're starting and ending on the same height, your initial and final velocities will be the same but opposite, same magnitude. If you leave the ground at 48 meters per second, you're going to hit the ground at 48 meters per second.